Hello, everyone. Can you guys all hear me? Feel free to put comments into chat. I want to make this as interactive as possible. And so my hope is that we can have a conversation in chat while I work through this materials. The topic of my workshop is how to leverage your strengths through job crafting. And really the philosophy here is that those of us who work in data science and do technical work and then try to interact with large companies with job descriptions and other sorts of jobs, or even smaller jobs, um, or small organizations, we often need to job craft for a number of reasons, some of which is that our organizations simply don't know what it means to be to hire a data scientist, but also because we have very specific needs in terms of what works for us and what doesn't. And as the field matures, our needs to understand how to set up a job correctly is really important. So my name is Nahama Ketan. I come to you from Pfizer, and I guess the first disclaimer here is that I am, let me move that off of there. All the opinions expressed here are my own and not of my employer. I am a wicked problem wrangler. I am not a human resources professional or a certified coach. So while some of this stuff is going to sound coachy, don't take it as official coaching. So any questions on that disclaimer? All right, so we're going to start with a creatives exercise, open exercise. I know this kind of sounds a little bit hokey, but just bear with me on it. One of the things that comes with job crafting is being creative, and being creative often means that we have to do kind of an opening up exercise to get our minds aligned. Then we're going to talk about the need to identify your strengths, how to do that, deconstructing your current role, taking out the different pieces of your current role and labeling them in different ways. What brings you joy? What brings you anxiety? What is busy work? What is high value work? What is very hard for you to do? What is easy for you to do? Different angles of deconstructing your job. Then we take those parts of your job that are high impact and high value, and grab those. Then take the parts of your job that are less high impact and find other ways to change them. Either pass them on to someone else because that they might be low impact for you, but high impact for someone else, or change the way you look at it, change the way you interact with it, change your mindsets. There's some great examples of how different people have looked at jobs in different ways. We're going to talk a little bit about why it's so hard. It's easy to say, oh, yeah, go job craft. But in fact, it's very hard to do, and most people don't do it. So we'll talk about future state, visioning, and then wrap up with a whole bunch of resources. This material and these slides will be available after the conference for you guys. So you have it. Good. Is there anything in this that you guys expected to see? Feel free to put it in the chat, which I will watch at the same time. Okay, so I want everyone to take a minute and think about how would it feel, and you can draw a picture, or you can just say some, put something in chat. How would it feel if you did your best work or did what you do best? Okay, so this is a phrase. So if you think of those things that you do your very best and those hours that you shine, go back in the last week or two of your job and think about those moments when you were on the top of your game. You knew what you were doing. Okay. Now imagine instead of having to go back for the last couple weeks to identify what got you to the top of your game, and you could do that 3 hours every day. How would that feel? What would that look like? Go ahead and put that in chat when it comes to mind. So what are the types of things that you guys do best? Looking at the chat, you guys all been quiet. It would feel fantastic. Okay. Um, you would write, okay? Satisfying, accomplished, relieved. I did this exercise inside of Pfizer. Problem solving is one of those things that you do very well. And if you could problem solve 3 hours a day, how would that feel? Energized for the week, okay? Right? So this is really, yeah, great. I did this as an internal exercise at Pfizer, and people drew pictures of smiley faces, our poses, like you would feel on top of the game and accomplished, right? So I really feel and believe and know that we will do our best work every day if we are able to do what we do best every day for a good chunk of the time. Maybe not the whole day. There's always some amount of work that you have to do that's maybe not your best. But if you could really build those positive parts of your day up, that it will change your life. Okay, so this is what this workshop is about, is to give you the tools to get them. How many of you guys, well, we're on chat and seeing the chat go through, how many of you guys are able to do what you do best? How much, how much of your day are you able to do that? Is it 1 hour, 8 hours, 3 hours, 30 minutes? If you look back to the last couple weeks, how much time on average per day are you really doing things that you do very, very well and are aligned with your strengths? While you guys are putting those in chat, I'll go on to the next slide. Less than an hour, Jacob. An hour on a good day, 2 hours per week. Yeah, that's about what the industry says, is that, on average, knowledge workers get to think about 11 minutes a day. So 3 hours a day would be like a serious improvement. Cool. All right. So let's talk about why we need to job craft to avoid burnout. Couple things about burnout. First of all, burnout is now a recognized ICD-10 code. That means you can go to your doctor and get a diagnosis of burnout. Okay, that's a little scary. It's very true. If you want to go read up on burnout, Kristen Maslach is the woman who has done the most research on burnout. And it turns out we burn out for a number of reasons. By the way, work overload is number 5 of 6. Okay, we think, oh, we're burnt out because we're working too hard. No, we burn out, first of all, because we don't have any control over our day. And it turns out we don't need a lot of control to really avoid burnout. We need about 15 to 20% of our work life under our control. So that's still less than that 3 hours a day, which would be about 25, 30% or 50%, depending on how long of a day you work. But you need about 15% of your day that you feel that you have control over. This follows the 3M model, where they gave everyone 15% of their time to do whatever they wanted to do, and the Google model that gives people a 1 day a week to do what they want. Insufficient reward, you don't feel like you're being recognized. That's not just money. That's your boss saying, hey, good job, right? Your teammates saying, hey, thank you. Unfairness, when you feel that somebody else is being treated differently than you, that's considered unfairness. Values conflict. This can be something as simple as you care deeply about the the environment, about animals, and now you're working for a company that does medical research on animals, right? Or you're working for a company that doesn't embrace your values around the environment, or this is Pride Month. You're passionate about pride, and your organization's not speaking about it. Right? It's not enough anymore to not be against it. Like you really want to see your organization being aligned with your values and your management talking about things that are important to you. Work overload, we all know all about that, having too much to do. And then finally, a breakdown of community and connection. How many of you guys think you're less connected to your coworkers than you were 2.5 years ago before COVID? I am, right? I used to go into the office 2 days a week. I've been into the office once in 2.5 years. It's a pain to get to the office. I don't go, but that breakdown in connection and community. And yes, I have built some huge, oh, I can run polls. Okay, perfect. We'll run polls next time. Thank you. We can, and also if anybody wants to talk in terms of come on stage and talk more, we can do that as well in some of the later exercises. So connection is really important. I have made some amazing connections on Zoom with people, but it's necessary to have a different structure of a meeting. So things that you can do to avoid burnout, you can change yourself. You can change how you view this, how what your strengths are. So if you're working really hard and trying to do something and it's really hard for you, then um it's you can change your skill level, you can change yourself, you can change the situation you are in, you can job craft a new job. And I've just gone through that exercise at work, where I went to my management and said, here's my new job. Okay. You can change how you view the situation. There's a wonderful article I'll show you guys later. It's a NPR piece on how different janitors view their job in a hospital. Absolutely the same job, two different viewpoints, completely different in terms of burnout. All right, so thank you guys for sharing. And yes, for people who are early in the career, it's even harder to be connected. So let's talk about identifying your strengths and then move on to deconstructing your current role. Okay, so what are strengths and why? Marcus Buckingham, who is the Strength Finders, had a TED Talk that presents the business case for strengths. And the business case for doing what you do best every day is that teams that can say yes to this question at work, do you have an opportunity to do what you do best every single day, or 3 hours a day, or 4 hours a day? Outperform teams where this is not true by at least 10 times. Okay. So if you do your very best and and you do things that are in your strengths, you will perform better and your teams will perform better than teams where they're not in exactly the same industries and the same businesses. I think they looked at McDonald's and a car dealership, right? These are not interesting, complicated jobs. And this was true. Great TED Talk. Go watch it. If you want to go back to your boss and say, hey, we need to be strength based here. Oh, no, we just have to get the job done. The answer is you'll get the job done way better if you're strength based. Okay, how many hours a day do you use your strengths? We kind of talked about that already. Let's talk about what neurodiversity is. It's in the title of the talk and in the description. So neurodiversity is an approach that is, I think, somewhere between 10 and 15 years old now, where we're trying to take various neurological conditions such as ADHD, autism, dyspraxia, dysgraphia, mental health conditions, anxiety, depression, etc., learning disabilities, etc., and say, you know what, it's not just that we have a diagnosis. And I have a TEDx talk that I did at Pfizer that's got a draft of it that I have linked here. I identify myself as neurodiverse. I was identified as massively learning disabled very young, um, and then continued to be diagnosed up through high school with issues, right? So we can look at those issues and say, well, we don't always have the right social skills. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that a lot of people at a data science conference probably don't have the best social skills. Some of us have really good social skills, some of us don't. Most of us might not have been homecoming queens or kings. So we don't necessarily have the best social skills. I don't have a good filter. Horrible at following rules, incredibly distractible, and very anxious. So that kind of describes the deficit part of my neurodiversity. But on the other side of that, I'm able to problem solve. I'm able to focus on some very complicated problems and solve them within a systematic view, a system view of it. And I'm able to innovate. So for you, if you think about how you think differently, maybe than not necessarily your peers, but other people you grew up with, feel free to put in chat. You know what does neurodiversity look like for you? Diagnosed or not, it doesn't really matter. What are the some of your superpowers or things that you do very, very well that might be because you don't fit into a box? Anybody? I will let you guys go for the next one. To the conference organizer, we'll go ahead and put that in as a poll. Okay, you can connect dots and patterns. Absolutely. And as you connect the dots and the patterns, then you can build a picture, right? You can build a solution, you can build a dream. And when everyone else says, oh, there's this here and this here and this here and this here, you guys can you put it all together. You can stay focused on a task when all hell is breaking loose. I like that one, Mike. I made all my kids go upstairs, but for people who know me at work, you can see like a million people running around in my background. And the poll is multiple choice. Okay. All right, right? Can I keep really focused when stuff is going on? But that's also important when you have lots of priorities. Nobody has just one job, right? We all have lots of jobs. Ah, Ling, you can connect dots, but others have a really hard time following you. Yes, I have learning to translate myself and slow down so that other people can understand me. That's very hard. Silencing the world around me for hours. I love that, Eric. That is a superpower I need to work on. Abdullah, that details, right? Some people can get in and get really deep and see those really fine details, and that's where there's a lot of stuff happens, problem solving. Okay, so you guys, um, for a poll, how many of you guys think that these kind of super strengths or superpowers and strengths are helpful? Yes, they're helpful, or they're appreciated at work, or no, they're not appreciated in your current job. How many of you guys are having conversations, yes, around your boss? So I'll put in the poll text. Um, are you talking to your boss about your strengths? Yes, no. If I had been more organized, I would have put this in. So we're going to go ahead and run a poll on the side. Okay. Okay, so I mentioned I did um a TEDx at work that was titled "I Can't Be Fixed Because I'm Not Broken." A draft of that because the actual talk is behind the firewall is here. Some just really quick looks at the disability world. Diversity is what you see. Okay, so there's a live poll. You guys can go to polls and fill that in. Diversity is what you see. So you walk around in a room, and I'm sure if we had a picture of all of you guys who were live in this room, we all look different. Equity is what you do. Privilege is what you have, and your superpower is a privilege. It might be a privilege that you've worked really hard to have, but let me give you a couple examples of privilege. I can problem solve because nobody understood anything I said until I was at least 4, and my grandmother told me she did not understand anything I said until I was 12. So no one understood me. So I was always trying to have conversations with people and it made no sense. So I learned to problem solve very, very young. But my neighbor next door, who works as a tradesperson, was changing his windows out the other day. He was replacing his own windows, and I'm looking outside the window and thinking, "Whoa, he's changing his own windows. Why am I not changing out my windows?" Right? Well, he's got the skill, and he's 6'3". It's a lot easier to change windows out when you're 6'3" than if you're 5'3". I don't have that skill, so he has the privilege of being handy, being able to do that kind of work. He has that knowledge. And if I am in an environment where my life depended on my making a living as a tradesperson, he's going to do a much better job. If his life depended on making a living in a high-tech corporate world, he would fail, right? So privilege is relative to the environment. I say the environment you're stuck in. Okay, so the trick is to change that environment. Empathy is feeling with someone else. That is climbing into the hole. There's a Brene Brown on this. Maja, I'm so glad your boss appreciates your skills. So empathy is climbing into the hole with someone else and saying, you know what? I get it. You have a new baby who is up at 3 o'clock in the morning. That's really hard. Talk to me about how you manage to get enough sleep. Talk to me about how maybe I can support you. Talk to me about how frustrating it is to never quite be awake. Okay, that's empathy. Sympathy is, oh, you poor soul. I'm so glad it's you and not me, right? It's kind of projecting out. And then inclusion is how everyone in the room feels. We think inclusion is just looking at those people who are different and saying, oh, yeah, let's go include them. It's not. Inclusion is we had an email sent out by a senior manager a long time ago, and it was, oh, we've got this inclusive thing. We have lean in circles for women. We have job rotation opportunities for new employees, and there was something else. I don't remember what it was. And I went to my middle-aged white male mentor and said, do you feel included by that message? Right? He is, not early career, not female. Where's the inclusion? Right? Inclusion is everyone. So we need to create a world where we can use our strengths. Why? Because if we can't use our strengths, then the people we mentor and support and parent and teach can't use their strengths, and the world just gets to be a worse place. Okay. Everyone agree with this? Yeah, no. So what are your superpowers and how do you find them? They are often the things that you do without even thinking about it. Now that's a hard one because now to get that, you have to go to someone else and say, hey, what do you think my strengths are? And if you've not done that exercise of going to someone and saying, tell me, give me 3 words that you use to describe me, or what do you think my 4 strengths are? Go do it. It's a wonderful exercise. Just a warning, when you go ask your friends and your coworkers, and maybe even some family members what your strengths are, don't ask your children. What they'll come back with is brutal. It's brutal. So don't ask them. Okay. And they also see you differently. Yeah. Okay. What do your friends, coworkers come to you for help? Go look at your team's chats, your emails. Who's coming to you for what kind of help? What are they asking you to help for? Help for? What would you spend your time doing if you had $1 million in the bank and didn't need to work and your retirement was paid for? Okay. Um, Go to 16 personalities. It is the best Myers-Briggs that I've ever done. And what's really neat about the Myers-Briggs on the 16 personalities is that it gives you like your whole personality. And then it tells you like movie characters and politicians and different people. And you can do it for a team at $9 a person per month and figure out how the interactions work. And they send you things each time. So 16 personalities is great. There is a free test called high5test.com. That's really cool. And then you can also send it to your friends. Thank you, Data Science, for copying these links in. There's a Viva character strength survey report. And then there's an exercise called building your baseball. And that's um, a baseball card. So you build out your strengths and your weaknesses. That one's gotten some different passes at it. Spend some time looking at your strengths. High 5 and 16 personalities are like less than a few minutes each to do, and I found them very insightful. And at least 16 personalities sends me things. We will share these slides. Yes, right? Data science, we can send the slides out. I'll send them to you before the end of the talk, after the end of the talk. Yes, slides will be shared. Okay, what do you do best? Where do you shine? Where do you lose time? Where are those times when you get into work and you look up and you're like, oh my God, what happened to the last 3 hours? Okay. What are you passionate about? What do you care about? I did the TEDx at Pfizer talk about disability. Why? Because I have a son with Down syndrome. And while I have a hidden disability, my learning disabilities, I joke, I can pretend to be normal, at least until I open my mouth. My son doesn't have that opportunity. And it turns out that if you look at the statistics, 50% of people in America who were killed by police are people with disabilities. Half of police killings are people with disabilities. So for me, it is so deeply important that I help create a world where people with disabilities have a place where they can use their strengths and can be present. And this presentation is available. Yes, that talk is available as well. Um, and so, that's what's driving me to do these things. So it's all around how does everyone use their strengths? Because as long as it's about my son using his strength, it's not relevant to you guys. But if I'm teaching you how to use your strengths, then it's relevant to everyone. So go spend some time, take a piece of paper, fold it in half, and start writing down what your strengths are while I go through this exercise. Okay, now look at your current role and just throw down, again, piece of paper, um, and identify the tasks that bring you joy and identify the tasks that stress you out. So on your little piece of paper, write down 5 or 6 things you do a day, or if you wrote them out before this talk, then throw them on this grid. So you want to do high joy things that are important, right? And you want to avoid stressful things that are busy work. So I've got a coworker who I need to coordinate an agenda of a meeting with. I almost need a drink to do it. Okay. I don't drink, so I don't have a drink to do it, but we all have those types of things, right? That's down here. Busy work, stress. So what do? I used to have a one-on-one with him for an hour. I would end the one-on-one like this. So I don't anymore. I send him a Teams chat and says, here's what I'm going to talk about. And I say, do you need 15 minutes or 30 minutes? And I'll take the rest of the time. And here's what I'm going to talk about. Or I need this much time. And I just eliminate the stress by putting it on Teams chat and ignoring them. Okay. So that's an example. On the other hand, I love giving presentations and I'm really good at it and it's important. So that's stuff I do up here. So you want to look at the things that you do up here that are high joy critical and think about them. High joy busy work, you need to make them more important. Okay. So high joy busy work might be checking email. It's not even high joy. You just do it because you're spinning, right? So think about, be intentional about where your work is and how to move it. The next one is what's important, again, back to critical or not, and your strengths. If something isn't important and it's not in your strength bucket, don't do it. It's not important. It's either not important to you or it's not important to the organization. If it's not important to the organization, don't do it at all. If it's important to the organization but not to you, or to where you're going, go find someone for whom it's important to. Okay, again, you want to be up here and you want to not be down here. If it's really important and it's not your strength, do some job training. Go figure out how to do it. Go fix it. Um, or if it's a strength but it's not important, figure out how to make it important. So these are great things. Just you write down, take this piece of paper when you get it printed, write down all the things you do for work, and then just kind of tag them into these spaces and think about either eliminating them. There's lots of stuff we don't do every day. I'll bet you guys I got a to-do list of 10 things. The bottom 5 never happen. Let's just be intentional about what those bottom 5 things are and pass them on. Because again, what's your strength is different than the person sitting next to you, different than the next person. So what might be a low strength for me might be a growth opportunity for someone else. It's great. Okay. Reconstruct your job. So say what stays, what changes. So what changes and how. So here is look at what are your responsibilities? How do you interact with it? And what are your mindsets? So okay, so you've got different types of responsibilities. You can change what the responsibilities of your job are. How about you guys? We do review cycle twice a year. So this is review cycle. I sit down with my boss and say, I'll take an example. Junior person X has been running the team meetings every week. Maybe someone else should have an opportunity to learn how to run a team meeting, right? Now you've passed this off to someone for whom it's an opportunity. Okay. Um, I have a number of projects I'm working at work on, and so I've got a stack of projects, I've got a stack of people. Some people I find more stressful to work with than others. When I look at the projects, project one has high stress person one, project two is a little bit less high stress, project three is not going to have high stress person involved. I'm just not going to do it. I'm going to go find a project. And they said, oh, you could do this, or this. And I'm like, okay, well, this one involves high stress person. This one involves high stress person. This one doesn't. Okay, I'll do that one. Right? We all have choices here, you guys. We all have choices. If you go to your boss proactively and say, here's what I want to do, I have never had a manager say completely no. They might say, well, you're going to have to give a little, but we can make it more interesting. Think about it like a dinner plate. We all have to have our vegetables. It's not all about eating the mashed potatoes and the meat or whatever your favorite meal is. There's some part of it we don't have to have, but we can build out that dessert. Okay, so we've got a little bit of time here. What parts of your job can you change? So make a list of things that you want to keep doing, or a list of things you would like to do, right? We can go back up to those grids. What are things, let's just put them out in the chat. What are things that you would like to do more of every day, right? We started with what are your strengths? So what would you like to do more of? I'm gonna wait until someone puts something in chat. So I wanted to do more mentoring and coaching in my organization. So that's an example. I get a lot of energy working with junior people and helping them see how to do more work. Okay, and how to work differently and how to really make an impact and difference. Problem solving, high level vision strategy. Okay. So let's look at the problem solving and the vision strategy work. Generally, those things have to happen after a full night's sleep, right? You can't do that kind of work tired, and you can't do that kind of work at the end of the day. Driving products forward, mentoring, more collaboration. So one of the key things, and I don't have it in this presentation, but I'll share with you here, is to use your calendar to help you schedule those things that you want to do more of. So this is my calendar. I just finished a class called Zero to Dangerous, but there's other systems. So I have all of my goals. I have annual, quarterly, monthly, weekly goals, and you can kind of see all of that. Then I have Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So I have on every day, what is my goal for that day? Then I have a list of random things. If I have to keep it in my head, it doesn't happen. So I pull it out. And then I have on the back notes I start to take it each week of kind of where I'm going with things. Okay, so this is actually notes for a talk I'm giving next week. So the idea is, and I do one of these every week. If you want to do those things that you do better, that problem solving strategy, you have to schedule it in. You have to schedule it in. If you don't, and you have to schedule it in at a prime time. That's the first thing. The second thing is that you have to break out. Am I screen sharing? Am I back sharing my screen again? Yes. Okay. You have to break out the difference between what is strategy work. So spend time focusing on your job, figuring out what you're going to do from actually doing your work. Okay. I do my little Excel, my little sheet here, this Google sheet, goal sheet here. I do it Sunday at 5 o'clock every week religiously, between 4 and 6 on Sunday, depending on my schedule with my children. I do that sheet up. That means that when I open up my day and say, okay, it's Thursday, what do I need to do? Oh, I knew I was going to have my children here. I didn't have much to do. So I have to send out a couple of emails and I had some meetings to do. So that's my day. But when I came in on Monday, it was finish writing this presentation. So I spent 3 hours Monday morning, finish writing all of these presentations. And yeah, that's a punching bag in my back, as well as gymnastics rings. My children bounce off the walls. They punch that instead of me or each other. So you need to figure out what you want to do. You need to schedule what you want to do, block it out with your time. And when you make time blocks, make it very clear what you're going to do in those time blocks. I don't know about you, but at least half of my day is spent in meetings. Those don't count. So in those free times, I have it very clear what my problem, my things are that need to happen. You also need to know that if you wake up Monday morning and you sit down and you're like, okay, now what should I do? You're going to spend the next hour scrolling the internet. You're going to be checking your email. You're going to be checking your teams. You're going to be looking, oh, I'm not sure what to do, blah, blah, blah. And you're going to lose that first thing in the morning time to think. So there's times when your brain is kind of really focused. And that's usually before you've checked your phone. The minute you've checked your phone, your brain is now wide open. So doing your planning actually works better at the end of the day. So at the end of my weekend, I do it. And at the end of every workday, I plan out what's going to happen tomorrow. Do not try to do focused work and then figure out what you're doing at the same time. So you might be, oh, I'm going to spend 3 hours focusing on strategy. Fine, have all that stuff up, but knock out the distractions because your phone is evil. It turns out it's sucking our brains out. It's causing all sorts of problems. Okay, so figure out what you want to do. The next thing I'm going to do is say there's a book. I'll show you the book. I don't have it in my list here. It's called The Source. And it's a 2019 and it's written by an MD PhD. Okay. And what she says in the source is write down what you want. Just write it down. And the universe will give it to you. And you're like, oh, well, that's hokey. It is hokey, except Sunday, I wrote down what my 3-year plan is. I just finished Zero to Dangerous. I went back and looked at the materials and it said, what are these dangerous things? I wrote out my 3-year plan in detail. I want to be working so many hours in this job and so many hours in this, having so many coaching clients and so many second run my own business. And it's going to work like this. And the kids are going to be like this. Wrote it out in detail. Monday afternoon, the next day, less than 24 hours later, someone calls me up and says, oh, I have this data architecture job in Springfield, Mass. So if you're in the Northeast and want to do a data architect job, email me on LinkedIn after this meeting because I've got someone who wants to hire you. So I have this data architecture job, and I don't want to be a data architect. I want to wrangle wicked problems. That's what I want to do. I don't want to do data architecture. And he said, well, okay, fine. Do you know? I said, if I know anyone, I'll let you know. And he said, well, what do you want to do? And I said, funny you asked. And I told him exactly what I wanted to do. And he's like, oh, yeah, I've got people who do that. The money was wrong. There was some issues with it, but it was like 80%. So if you know what you want to do, then when someone says something to you, you get all this noise and feedback, you start to see, oh, I want to do that. You start to see it. It starts blinking, right? With all the noise, you start to see this. You start to see this. So it gives you a filter to look at all the noise around you and see these opportunities. So there is, even if you never share that piece of paper of what you want to do, that big, huge goal, write it up, put it in your bathroom mirror so you can see it or wherever it is you put such things, and put it or the front of your notebook because frame what you want to do. Then when your boss says, oh, would you go pick up this extra project? So my boss sent me yesterday, he's going on vacation, and he said, oh, there's these other senior VPs who are complaining to my boss that we're not getting our job done. Can you step in and help with it? And I thought, okay, is it a wicked problem? Yes, it's a wicked problem. Does it involve the coworker who drives me crazy? No, it doesn't. Do I have some ideas that I could add value to it? Yup. I said, sure, I'll do it. Right? Very simple, because I have my list of requirements for taking on a new task. And by the way, it's actually the same task as I said I was going to do for someone else. It's just written up differently. It's like, fine, you want to call it that instead of, you want to call it an apple instead of an orange, and it's really a banana. I don't actually care. It's still a fruit. Okay. So do that, write out what you want to do and then ask for it. You will be amazed. Connect with me on LinkedIn and tell me if anyone here writes out what they want to do and an opportunity doesn't come forward in the next week and they talk to anyone outside of work ever, I will send you a coffee card for Dunkin' Donuts. Okay. If you don't get, if you write out what you want to do and nothing comes from it in a week, I will send you a coffee card. Okay. So, same thing for the tasks you don't like. Change them or get other people to do it. So, write up a list of I like to do these and a list of I don't like doing these. These are things I either do really badly, they're annoying, Excel spreadsheet management's on my list, all of those things. I want the t shirt that says Excel is the tech equivalent of plastic water bottles, right? Um, I'll put that in text. I thought someone gave me that quote today. Excel is the plastic water bottle equivalent is the one second tech equivalent of plastic water bottles. Okay. I want I'm rambling so you guys can take notes, right? Um write down the things you don't like. And when someone says, "Oh, I wish I had more opportunity to lead meetings," you're like, "Hey, here, cool. Here's a meeting for you to lead." Right? Same thing happens. Again, if you make a list of things that you don't want to do and you listen to people and you can't pass something off on that list in 2 weeks, if you can't pass off something in 2 weeks on that list, text me, coffee card. Okay. I'm afraid to ask how many people on this call, but really, trust me, it will be good. Okay. So spend time every week focused on your job, writing out your goals. This my sheet of paper shows all my personal goals, my work goals. I hand it back up. I've got work goal. Well, these are the work goals. They've got less details in them. My personal goals, my kids' menus, all that stuff, right? Took me 2 hours to write the first one. It takes me about 30 minutes every week to maintain it. Write it up. The one week I didn't do it because I was pissed off and depressed. It was horrible. I just spent the whole week kind of going from this to this and I got nothing done. It was really bad. So every week, figure out what you're going to do. Then at the end of every day, spend 5 minutes updating what you're going to do. Then, when you're in your job, take a sticky note, make a list. Am I using my strengths? Just check them off. Am I using my strengths? Am I not using my strengths? Write down your strengths. Is this a task someone else can do better? Is it not? I love sticky notes. You can, now that we're all working from home, you can put them up all around your monitor. If you put up a million sticky notes all around your monitor and you work in an office, they laugh at you. But at home, no one sees your monitor, so you're good. Okay. Um, and then see if it's something you want to do more of. The world will actually come forward. It's amazing. Things actually move forward. Okay. Any questions? Are the rows or columns? The rows on this sheet are tasks. The columns are here on this side. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. These are columns with weeks. So I have my goals here, and it's goal, annual, quarterly, monthly, weekly. Then it's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I don't schedule things on Saturday. It's my recovery day. And then individual tasks in here. So I have here, let me do this. Drive the disability discussion. Okay, give 10 talks a year. I said I wanted to give 10 talks back in March. I think this is talk number 7. So I have to fix that, right? And so it says job crafting, neurodiverse, right? Monday, Tuesday. I put it in. Does that make sense? Sounds good? Okay. How can you get my template? Send me a note on LinkedIn. I'll send it to you. I'll send you a template. That's easy. Okay. Spend some time every day working on it. But again, write out what you want. And then with my template on the second page of my template is my massively transformative goal, What am I trying to do on a high level? Because that's really important. Where are you trying to go? Okay. Reconstruction. Now that you've identified what your strengths are and what you want to be doing, and you've taken all those pieces, so you've taken your current job, which was this ugly Lego, pull it apart, and you can put it back together. Now you rebuild it and say, oh, I had a Lego car before, but really I want a Lego house. I'm done being a digital nomad. I don't want to go run around in my little tiny house. I want to build a house and with a white picket fence. I've got like 10 feet of white picket fence. It's ugly. But right. So take all of your pieces and put them back together. Where could you be more aligned with your strengths? If it's not aligned, get rid of it. If you can't get rid of it, automate it. Automate it. Get all program, right? We all could program. Automate it, systematize it, make it into a process. I ran an S Corp years and years ago. I was a corp to corp. And one of the things you have to do as an S Corp is payroll. And if you're the only employee or there's only two employees, you do payroll once a quarter because doing it more often is a pain, right? Well, at once a quarter, I every time I had to go and file the payroll. So doing payroll means that you go in and you pay your payroll taxes to the state and to the Fed. You have to prepay those taxes. Well, guess what? Every time I did it, it took me an hour to find the passwords and the logins. An hour to do a 10-minute task because it took me an hour to find the passwords. Total waste of time. So what do? You write up a sheet of paper and you laminate it and you put it inside your folder. Here's all your passwords and logins and how to do it. And now it would take me 15 minutes to do it instead of an hour. Maybe I could have done payroll once a month. It was too much trouble to do payroll once a month. So I only did it once a once a quarter. Um, right? So automate it, systematize it, partner with others. There is always someone else for whom your strengths are a growth opportunity. Or I find that the world is filled with people who love making Excel spreadsheets look good. Cool. Here, let me help give that to you. Okay. What interactions bring you joy? Every time something brings you joy, sticky note it. Write down, make a check mark. This brought me joy. This brought me joy. First of all, you'll end your day with a huge amount of gratitude. You're like, boy, I had joy like 6 times today. I told my kid to do something this morning. She paints pet portraits to pay for her horse habit. Turns out horses are incredibly expensive, and her mother makes her pay for half of the expense of a horse of riding lessons. And so she was out of clients, and so she went out today. I said, "Hey," she took some sample paintings and she went and knocked on doors in my neighborhood. Got a month's worth, well, 3 weeks worth of work. It's like cool. That's joy, right? That brought me joy just to see someone take my advice. A kid take your advice is huge, right? I can give some advice at work and people will take it. Giving a presentation like this brings me joy, right? Because I think some of you guys will look at your day differently. Maybe you'll look at your work differently. Interactions that are stressful. Really figure out why they are stressful. Okay. Sometimes they're stressful. So your cats bring you joy probably because they don't talk back at you. And also because you get to pet them, right? Um, possibly 1 second. So sometimes you really need to understand why they're stressful. It could be that doing a particular task is stressful. So I'll go back to payroll. Doing payroll was stressful because I'm paying money and I'm dealing with taxes and organizations and government websites, and that's stressful, right? But really, it was stressful because I didn't have a system and I couldn't find the information. If I knew it was only going to be a 10-minute task, it wouldn't have been stressful. Or it would have been stressful for 10 minutes. If it's a task, though, that I'm spending so much time trying to find, and I'm not even sure I'm going to find those passwords, and maybe I have to reset all of my passwords every quarter, then it's this open ended stress and it's really bad. But if I can limit that stress by doing something differently with it, it's good. But then the second part of it is if it's stressful because there's another person involved, I think my best lesson this year is I have we all have that coworker, right? So that coworker in my life is building a bus to drive me over with. I am convinced this person is building a case for why I have failed at my job. Now, could be it's actually much more likely that it's all in my head that this case is being built. I'm not sure I'm that important to this person that they would bother build a case for why I have failed on their project. But let's assume they have. Really stressed me out. I would like wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning with anxiety attacks. This was not fun. So I called up my boss. I was talking to someone and they said, well, why do you care what this person thinks? Why do you care what Joe thinks? His name isn't Joe, so I'm safe. What do you care what Joe thinks? I'm like, well, because it's his project and he's important and he's been in this environment longer than me and our boss's boss thinks he walks on water and blah 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 blah. So I go to my boss and I say to my boss, I said, "It's to drive me over with." And the guy's like, "Huh?" Like, yeah, just bear with me, right? Like he's gonna drive me over with this bus, turn around, back up, 3 or 4 times just to make sure I've really been hit by the bus, right? Maybe drive around circles, take a couple different angles, okay? And I said, and the guy's like, yeah, he is. And I said, okay. I said, does anyone care? Does anyone care? I said, do you care if Joe is gonna try to drive me over with the bus? He said, no. I know you're doing a good job. I don't care what he thinks about your work, right? I said, does anyone else care? And he said, no, except for in one situation, it was going to be relevant. Because in that situation, lots of different people were going to get feedback on my performance. In a performance review situation, my peers would all get kind of pinged. What do you think about Nahama? What do you think about Nahama? In that situation, someone will ask him his opinion, but in no other situations. So I said, okay, well, that sucks. He's going to have feedback into my promotion cycle. But then I thought, wait a second, but I can front load that promotion feedback with 15 other people. If everyone in the world thinks you're a good person and likes you, you're not doing enough. I was listening to Darren Hardy yesterday in one of his classes that I'm taking, and he said, look, when Obama won the election, 49% of the population didn't like him. That's why he's president of the United States and the rest of us aren't. People know you enough not to like you, that's a good sign. So, no one, if you're actually liked by everyone, you're not being innovative enough, you're not pushing boundaries enough, you're not doing enough anything. The trick is to make sure that everyone doesn't hate you. Okay. So, does that other person matter? The answer is no, they don't. Like, just simply, Joe doesn't matter. And so now when he starts talking, I'm like, oh, there's the bus. There's the bus. It's a cute bus. Isn't that a cute bus? I'm like, yep, bus is gone. Not my problem. Right. So a lot of what makes us unhappy at work is this stress conversation we have with ourselves. It has nothing to do with this other person. I have never told Joe that I don't think his bus exists. If I went to him and said, oh, you're building a bus to drive me over with, he'd be like, oh, what are you wrong? What's wrong with you? You're just overly emotional. And I'm like, yeah, okay, fine, whatever. Right? So think about that, right? So much of what brings us stress and work isn't worth worrying about because nobody else cares. Boundaries. What are your boundaries? Again, I will have to schedule a joint agenda with Joe. I just send him a Teams chat. I'll have to have a conversation. I don't have to add stress to my life. But if a boundary, I get half an hour out of the hour. I get half the time. If I want more time, I have to negotiate. If I don't want more time, I just tell them what's going to be in my time slot. So, what can you do differently? How can you approach those Joes in your life? Tell me, can we put up a poll? If let's look at the last poll. The last poll was, are you talking about your strengths? Half of people, yes, half of people, no. So let's ask a different question here. Um, how many people have stressful situations at work? Many are stressed at work by a person or task. And we'll see if the second poll goes up and will be open. Okay. So how many you guys stressed, not stressed? Poll just went up. Nope. And we'll go back up. Okay. Okay, so what can you do differently about it? This is huge. How we react, you're right. So this is the reconstruction of the interactions. How we interact with our job. Well, I'm not saying change your job, change your tasks. Let's just interact with it differently. Okay, so there is we're all stressed. There, 10 people are stressed by something, right? So how you interact with it, how you frame it. What if the strength does not help with career achievement, advancement? It will. You just need to reframe your strength. We'll get to that. Your strength, if your strength isn't aligned with your career advancement, you're in the wrong career. Because you will advance if you work on your strengths way faster than if you're not working on your strengths. Okay. Let me actually go answer that question for a second. I like that. So so the question in chat is, what if the strength does not help with career advancement? So one of the things that I've done, and Amelia and I met over this, because when we first met, I first started this up, is that I picked up woodworking in COVID. 20 October of 2020, I decided to do woodworking. And so in fact, just this last couple months, a month and a half ago, I cut down a tree in my backyard. It was old, cut out a piece of wood. I've been carving. So this is my data wizard. I used to be a data wizard, and now it's my data wizard wand that I'm gonna write down what it gave me and put it on a wall to kind of say, okay, I'm no longer a data wizard. So woodworking has nothing to do with drug trials at Pfizer. I work in groups that either clean the data or submit the data for drug trials. What do I get from the woodworking? I get a couple things. One, I get a problem solved in 3D. So if I sit and have this like a challenge of how am I going to structure a project, or how am I going to work with someone, or how am I going to train someone, or how am I going to solve a technical problem, kind of put it in your brain. And I can go downstairs. It used to be I did data woodworking in my dining room. Now I've got a wood shop in the basement. Go down to the basement and I go build something. And my brain keeps working, keeps working. And as I'm working through that, I start to be like, oh, wait, what kind of joinery should I use? Oh, how do I put the pieces together at work, right? So how should I join pieces of wood? How should I join the pieces at work? My daughter, who does the painting, when I first started woodworking, she came up to me on the first project and said, Mom, she was 9. She says, "No one lets me use power tools. Can I use the impact driver for the drill?" And I said, "What? No one lets you use power tools? How did I raise a feminist who doesn't know how to use power tools? Like, what's going on here?" And I thought, "Oh my God, I thought I was giving my children every possible opportunity to use power tools, and I haven't been, right? What am I doing here?" So I went back to work and I said, to how many different people am I working with, to all my junior people, I say, how many of you guys have something you want to do and you don't know how to ask to go do it? They all raised their hands. Every last one of them said they wanted to do something, but they didn't know how to ask. That's what I learned from woodworking, right? It transformed my relationships with the people I'm mentoring. Okay. So in theory, that strength, the woodworking, and I don't do beautiful furniture. I'm so glad someone on chat does. That doing that has transformed right over to the work I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. Okay. So that's kind of that transformation. You just have to reframe it. Did that help, Ling? Okay. Next slide. So reconstruction, what are you doing at work? And it's a mindset. So what can we do around mindset? So this link here, this hidden brain link on NPR, it's great. It's called Finding Meaning at Work. It's a woman who talks about kind of the mindset, and she brings an example of they went and they took janitors in hospitals. Okay, so being a janitor in a hospital is kind of a pain. right? People throw up on the floor, there are all kinds of bodily fluids, people are sick, people are grumpy, you work, weird hours, right? Hospitals have to be cleaned day and night. It's not an easy job. And so they took these janitors, and it turns out there's two groups of janitors, same job descriptions, same number of hours working, same background, everything is controlled for. And one felt that their job was just horrific, and one felt that their job was deeply meaningful. What happened? What's the difference? So the person who shows up and says, "Oh my God, I'm a janitor. I don't want to be a janitor. I shouldn't have to be a janitor. This sucks and I'm still a janitor. I hate being a janitor." Doesn't like the job. The person who comes in, and there's one of the janitors who said, "Look," he walks up, a patient throws up, and he was working in the oncology wards, and he says, "Look, his job is to help patients get better." So they throw up all over the floor, and he's like, "Hey, thank you. You've given me a job, right? I'm here to make someone who's feeling bad feel just a little bit better about themselves, feel that someone cares." Okay, so if you get someone who's a caregiver, and so that janitor, that second janitor, has rebranded this work as being that person who's interacting with the who's interacting with the patients, and really being that person who's in their room, spending time with them when they're at their worst and helping them be more, feeling just better about themselves. Okay. I'll give you another example. I've got a friend who's got two special needs kids. I've got my child with Down syndrome. She loves caregiving. She loves caregiving. She loves that, giving everything to her children. I don't like caregiving, right? It's just her mindset is different. Um, and so for her, she gets joy and care from it. So it's exactly the same work. Do I feel like this is a burden, or do I feel like this is something I'm getting joy from? So it's that mindset. Any of you guys had an experience where you were able to shift your mindset at work and it changed how you thought about it? Go ahead and put them in the chat. Okay. So why is this all hard? So what I've told you, I'm guessing you've heard it before. This is not new, right? We've all heard this before. Work on your job, not in your job. Reframe your mindset. Just look at things differently. Ask for help. Ask for changes. Well, the first is that we're all burnt out. So the first reason it's hard is we're burnt out. We're just burnt out. Right? At the beginning of the slides, we had that information on what's being burnt out. Second is we don't sleep enough. If you don't manage your basic psychology, your basic positive psychology stuff, you can't. So, Scott Kaufman, one second, here it is. I'm going to show this. We'll go back up. This is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, rewritten as a sailboat. He's got a whole book called Transcend. This guy does. So, if you're down here, safety, connection, self-esteem, if you don't feel safe, you don't feel like you're connected, and you don't feel like you're doing a good job, like this. So all of you guys sit. I can't see you on video, so don't worry about looking funny. Like this. Go tight. Now, try to think expansively. You can't. Cannot think expansively if you like this. You can't go, "Oh yeah, now," right? If I want to think expansively, I have to put my arms out. I have to be big. Okay, you can't do that if you're down here in safety, connection, self-esteem. Safety, connection, you can't feel safe and connected and self-esteem if you're not sleeping. So your basic problem is we're not sleeping enough. Get some sleep. 8 hours a night. 9. So to get 8 hours of sleep a night, you have to be in bed for 9 hours. You have to be in bed to sleep for 8. And if you sleep for 8 hours a night, though, your mind wakes up way better. Sorry, Amelia, I know you have a baby. You're going to shoot me. So do your 9 hours in chunks. Okay. But if you don't sleep and all bets are off because you show up and you're like this, and all of a sudden someone's like, "Oh, well, how come you're just not listening to me?" Well, I can't because I'm too tied up trying to just survive. We don't get outside. Turns out you need to walk outside. You need to sit on your porch, take your phones. My phones, not just because I'm doing a presentation. These are my phones. They're way behind me. They're off. Oh, they're off, but they're behind me. I can't even see them. If you can even see your phone, it's distracting you. I am playing with a rubber band. It's making me probably driving you guys nuts. It's making me nuts. But we don't get outside. So you have to sit outside for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. We can all sit outside, walk around the block, get some fresh air. So doing this type of work means stepping back. And when you're in a job that you just can't, that's just making you crazy and you hate, stepping back is hard. So we're burnt out, so go get some sleep. Get outside, recognize that burnout is real. It's not in your head. Burnout is real. I'll come back up here to this. There it is. Burnout is an ICD-10 code. It's medical code. Your doctor can diagnose it with you, and it's because you're just completely overwhelmed. Okay? So eat right, sleep better. But if you have to pick one thing to do, so everyone says, oh, you have to eat, you have to sleep, you have to talk to people, you have to do this, you have to do that. The one thing to do is to sleep. Figure out how to sleep. Lots of stuff out there, sleep training, sleep train your kids, sleep train yourself. Okay, and then the second thing to do is to get outside. And we all have limiting beliefs. So there's this great TED talk on growth mindset, Carol Dweck, on what's your limiting belief. So you guys think I'm pretty upbeat and positive and self-aware, right? Have I fooled someone in this room yet? Fooled someone. I mean, I guess I fooled someone. Okay, so I took the Scott Barry Kaufman Transcend class in March, and he goes, well, what are you really worried about? And I thought, it's that exercise you do where you say, what's the worst can happen? And then you decide that the worst that can happen isn't so bad. And I thought, oh yeah, I've done that exercise. I know about that. I'm done. And so what am I really worried about? I'm worried about not making a living. I fooled you good, Jula. Okay, so I'm all worried. So I'm like, I can't make a living. I spent in 08, 09, this is dates me a little bit, right? In the last recession, I was out of work for a year. I interviewed at 12 different companies and got one really horrible job. 3-month contract at a really low rate was the only thing I could do. And I'm terrified of doing that. I was like, whoa, I've got some like serious deep seated like trauma and fear here. Right. So I just kind of went, okay, I'm there. And then next class I took the Zero to Dangerous class. They said, so what is stopping you from doing what you want to go do? Like build your picture of what you want to go do, go run a business, whatever it is, right? For me, it's running a business. And why don't I do it? And the answer is I don't know how to market myself. I don't know how to market myself, right? 12 job interviews, right? 12 interviews, didn't get a job that first time. I was looking for the wrong kinds of jobs. I've done that again in other situations since then where I've gone out, talked to a ton of people, never got hired because I was looking for the wrong kind of jobs. I don't know how to market myself. It's like, whoa, okay, right? Don't know how to market myself. So what is my limiting belief? It's not, I don't know. My limiting belief is that I can't market myself. I have to go from I can't market myself to I don't know how to market myself to, oh, Darren Hardy has this great class on how to run a business. Teach me how to market myself. Right. So now I've gone from, second, I've gone from I can't, I don't know, I can't to I don't know how to, oh, I can't, therefore I'm never going to be able to do it. Can't do it. Don't know how to do it. Won't happen. I've tried. I'm 52 years old dog, new tricks don't happen. Dog's basically dead. Like, forget that. To wait, there's a skill I don't know how to do. Ah, but I know how to learn. I know how to learn. Go find the materials to learn. Then it turns out if you want to go learn something new, you need a buddy. So again, remember that kid who's doing horses? She's all pissed off. She's too young to get a real job, so she's trying to figure out how to make $500 a month to pay for her horse habit at 11. That's a lot of money for an 11-year-old. Um, so she's doing this business class with me. So we're going to go do it together. So she's going to hold me accountable. So go from what is it that you know you can't do so much that you don't even verbalize that you can't do it. Ah, I can't do my own business. Just can't do it. No, it's I can't market myself to oh, wait, I don't know how to market myself to wait. Now I can go take a class and I can get myself an accountability partner. So for people in this class, exchange your emails, you guys. Find someone, not your spouse, not your boss, not your kid, probably. Well, not your spouse or your boss, right? But get somebody to be an accountability partner so that they can work with you to hold you accountable to learn something new. Okay, so that's our limiting beliefs. You have to identify what it is, figure out that it's something you can learn, find out how to learn it, and then just go do it. Okay, so be honest. We all get in our own way. So, how are you getting in your own way? What are you afraid of? Take that piece of paper. You guys are working on a piece of paper, right? What are you afraid of? What do you know you can't do? Why won't any of this work for you? Why won't any of this job crafting work for you? Is it because you're in a highly regulated industry? Is it because your group is downsizing? Is it because you just don't have the time? Is it because I'm just not that smart, charismatic, or successful? Oh, yeah, doing that kind of stuff is for those people. Your mother told you you couldn't. I was a failure at school. I was a failure at school. I went into the college advisor office when I was a sophomore and said, I'm going to Barnard. And she said, don't even bother to apply. You don't have the grades. Can't go. What do you think you can go to Barnard? Got in, I went to Barnard, studied math. Okay. My mother told me, I told her years ago, I got hired by Intel when I first started working for my charming personality. It took her like not even me finishing that sentence for her to say, but Nakama, you don't have a charming personality. So what's stopping you? And sometimes you have to like close your eyes. I know all tech people here, but close your eyes. What's stopping you in your gut? When you hit that thing in your gut that goes, okay, that's the thing you have to go kind of pull out, think aliens, kind of pull it out and soothe it and calm it down and settle it. I know it sounds really hokey, but trust me, find that thing in your gut that's like this. We'll have it and go settle it. Find a coach if you have to. Okay. Thank you. So power of knowing what you want. That's the source. I showed you the book before. What happens if you know what you want and you are very clear about it? Happens is I wrote down Sunday night what I wanted. Monday morning, when I was writing up the slide deck, I wrote this out. Monday afternoon, I got a phone call. It was about 80% right. Wasn't quite right, but 80% from 0 to 80%. So, what do you want? When do you want it? How do you want it? Where do you want it? And with whom? So, what job do you want? We all started this call an hour and a quarter ago with wouldn't it be great if we could spend 3 hours a day doing what we do well? So, what is that? What is it that you do really well? The problem solving, the connecting dots, the getting really detailed. What are those whats? Write it down. When are you going to do it? How are you going to do it and where are you going to do it? Write it down. Write it down. You never have to show it to anyone, but the fact that you wrote it down, and I don't mean type it, I mean on a piece of paper. It has to be written down on a piece of paper. I think I wrote it on a piece of paper someplace. Nah, yeah, I did. I wrote on a piece of paper and then I emailed it to myself because I lose paper, obviously. I have no idea where it is, but right. So write it down with paper, pencil. Pencil's this amazing thing you can erase. Okay, write it down. And again, let me go back up here. I'm serious. You guys write this down. You're very clear. If something doesn't shake up in a week, 1 week, write this down and something doesn't change in 1 week, email me. I'll send you $5 to get a Dunkin' Donut cup of coffee at Dunkin' Donuts. Okay, job crafting. Paint a picture, make it real. The more details you can have, the better. So here's an example of what I wanted. I actually use my my password. I write a passphrase for my passwords. So my passphrase last October was I will have a seat at the table or something. So IWH, right? Take the first letter of each word to make a password. I will have a seat at the table. Um, so I use it as that passphrase to keep reminding me of what I want to do. It took me, and the passwords expire in 90 days. Within a month, I had a seat at the table. Okay. So I'll have a seat at the table, be involved in strategic decision makings, influence how tools are used in your environment, bring new methodologies and develop current ones. So this is, let's say, a job description. Okay. This is not mine, but it could be. It would have been mine at a different time. So 20% strategic roadmap development, participate in meetings with senior management, develop a 5-year roadmap. Some of this is part of my current job. Attend 3 conferences a year and present at 2, and have 2 virtual coffees networking with people a month. You have to do strategic work. You need to talk to lots of people. You have to always be talking to people to do really strategy work to get different ideas. 40% exploring new methodologies through proof of concepts. So learn 4 new tools a year, generate 2 proof of concepts a year. Okay. Maybe not 4 new complete tools, but let's say I'm in the R space or Shiny, Tidyverse, a couple of 4 new tricks a year. And then 40% is maturing one idea to early production. So this would be an example of someone as an individual contributor with a little bit of leadership. Okay. Paint lots of details. The more details, the better that picture is in your head. And then when you see the world, how many of you guys have seen that science experiment where you get a fan and then you hit it with the strobe light at the right frequency and the fan looks like it's standing still? That's what this exercise does to you. You identify what you want and now you see the world with this as a filter and you start to see it. It becomes real. Okay, what is your dream job? What, when, how, where, and with whom? Close your eyes. I mean, close your eyes for just, I'm gonna actually make my computer sit for okay, I can't figure out how to get my computer set, but let's just sit for 10 seconds. Close your eyes and feel, what would it feel like to spend 3 hours a day doing what you do well? To move things that are important and that you do well or you have strengths in so that you get to focus on those. To take those things that you're stressed about and reframe them. To find the Joes in your world who drive you nuts and just decide that their feedback doesn't matter. How would that feel? Do you guys think you could do it? Okay, so thank you. You can find me on LinkedIn. Let me give you guys 10 minutes. I want you to spend 5 of those, go do a bio break before the next session, but spend 5 of those sitting down, just writing down what it is that you want to do. I'll stay on the session so people can send me text chats. Here's some additional notes, right, that were in it that I've kind of sampled through. What is job crafting? This is a good example of job crafting from positive psychology. Understanding comes calm. This is great for people who are twice exceptional. That's someone with a kind of a neurodiversity and gifted. Scott Barry Kaufman. Can't be fixed because I'm not broken. TED Talks, limiting beliefs. We all have them. If you want to know about limiting beliefs, they did a study in the 80s where they told the teacher that half of these kids are gifted and the other kids are not gifted, randomly selected children and said that some group of children were gifted. Those kids had massively better test scores at the end of the year, just simply because a teacher thought they were gifted. Didn't tell the kids, 20% of the kids randomly assigned. Okay, this is dangerous shit. You believe it, you'll believe the negatives, so go off and believe the positives. Okay, Maslow's needs. What work you love. So IC Bristle does some amazing stuff at icbristle.com, and she has be the designer of the work you love. She has a sign up with a tea that I go to. Um, and that's it, right? Come find me. Write out what you want. You've got 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 7, 8 minutes before 2 o'clock. Go write out what you want in your life in as much clarity as you can in the next 8 minutes and put it someplace. Okay. And if anyone else wants me to give this talk someplace, reach out to me. I'm off giving talks, I believe firmly, and particularly people who don't fit into that box of what they need to do with their lives. Don't fit into that box of corporate America where the standard career paths work for you. If you don't fit into that box, and I'm guessing if you're still here, you don't fit into that box, let me know organizations you would like to hear this message. I'm here to give those talks. Okay? Thank you for all of your notes in the chat. And go ahead and just say, when you connect with me on LinkedIn, just say you saw my talk and I'll friend you. So lots of people try to connect to sell me something. So yes, I will send you the slides. I will, Amelia, I'll send you this. I'll send the conference the slides and they'll send them out. And I'll also send you, I'll make a template for my scheduling template for you. Go write your presentation, go write out your new job descriptions. Or at least write out your strengths. Okay. Thank you.